Rabbi Manis Friedman. Hello, thank God it's Tuesday. Um, so grateful for this time that we spent together. And the question that I would like to raise today is there's so much confusion out there, so much disinformation, and we're desperately trying to find the truth, find out what's going on in the world, try to figure things out. And are we hurting ourselves in the process? And the reason I'm asking is not without a reason. I listened to your fantastic podcast on your YouTube channel, and thank you so much for this new series of Torah studies that you do weekly. And this week's Parsha, week number 8, you were speaking about Dina. Dina, who unfortunately, very sadly, came out of her protective space, out of her family and into the world. And unfortunately, that resulted in her getting raped. And basically, this is the parallel that I am trying to somehow have here in this conversation. I mean, if we stay at home and we tend to our families and we don't bother with what's going on in the world, what's going on, where's the truth, what is the truth, just concentrate on work, family, community, be done with it, live in a very closed environment. We don't, we protect ourselves this way. But then if we are out there and trying to figure out what's happening, what's going on with the world, where is the truth, who's doing who to what, are we kind of maybe in a way, I'm sorry to say this, raping our minds and our souls, violating ourselves with this information, and maybe hurting our connection to God? And each one has an individual connection, and you don't have to be religious to have this connection. But is it detrimental to us, what we're doing? Should we not? Or is it something that we should be doing because Dina also came out of her safe environment for a good reason, not just to check it out? So that's the question, Rabbi Friedman.
I think the real question is, where are we safe? I don't know. There's no guarantee no matter where you are. There are dangers within and there are dangers without. The question is not how to protect yourself, because that can lead to a little paranoia. The question is, what is the right thing to do? What is the necessary thing? And there is some danger involved. Yes, there is. There is. And until Mashiach comes, there will be. That shouldn't stop us. Talking to somebody just 2 days ago, and he's very upset with what he hears in the news. I said, it's fake news. He says, how do you know? How can you be sure? I said, because in the worst case, 50% of the people are bad, 50% of life is bad, 50% of the universe is bad. Worst case. Why don't we ever hear about the other 50%? Never. So the fake news is not only fake in what it reports, it's also fake in the impression that it gives. That this is the only thing that's happening, just bad, 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 bad. You know that's not true. The question is, to what degree is it not true? It's certainly 50-50. But that's not accurate. That's just a guess. Is it 60-40 in favor of goodness? 60% of the people are good, only 40% are bad? Is it 80-20? Is it 90-10? From the fake news, you'll never know. So, that the news is fake is for sure. The question is only how fake. To what degree? People go out, like Dina went out, to encourage and inspire the other girls, the non-Jewish girls in the neighborhood. How many Dinas are there who don't get raped? None. There was one Dina and she got raped. That's it. That's a false impression. So the question is, why does the Torah bother to tell us about this? What's the point? Because it's certainly not unheard of. You don't need the Torah to tell you that girls can get hurt. So what's the point of the story? That her brothers took matters in their own hands and settled the score? But the question is a good question. What Torah lesson are we getting from this story that is so common, everyday events throughout all of history? I'm sure she wasn't the first girl to be raped. So we should go out, do what you have to do what is right. There's a danger. Yes, there's a danger. But we're not meant to give up and hide in what we think is a safe place or a safer place.
Rabbi Friedman, but is it okay? Are we not hurting ourselves or violating our souls? Because obviously, if we wake up and it's sunny outside and everybody is nice and everybody is kind to each other and all you hear are good things, then it's beautiful for the soul. The soul blossoms and you feel good and you want to fly and you want to do more goodness in the world. But when you turn on, again, yes, there's no news in the news, but if you are a news and truth seeker, you go to the Telegram, you go to the Truth Social, you find some sources of information where you do get something. Again, how trustworthy it is, it's also, remains to be seen. But regardless, we want to know where we are. Sometimes we want to know this so other people who seems to be depressed about everything that's going on, so we can help them out. Maybe it's give them word of encouragement, give them some positivity from the other sources of information. It's kind of good, but again, what is it doing to us personally when we're constantly in the midst of this insanity, and we read about everything? And boy, has it been pouring in last week, with the Twitter, with the election fraud, and all of these things. They're just gushing out right now. And I have a feeling there's more of that coming, and very, very soon. So what do we do? Is it okay to dig in? Is it okay to talk to other people about it? Or should we just cover ourselves and go into our family and not pay attention to what's going on because it has pretty much not much we can do about it? Or maybe we can, I don't know.
The less we listen to that stuff, the healthier we're going to be. And you won't be missing out on anything, because what is popular or problematic, you're going to hear about it from people. You don't have to go online. You don't have to log in. You don't have to belong to any So don't get your news from the internet. You'll get your news from your neighbors, from your friends, from people. So you won't be naive and out of touch if that's what you're afraid of. You can't be these days. You can't. Even if you were hiding in your house, you would know everything that's intensely popular, and what is happening, you will know. Not every gory detail. Secondly, in a time of such confusion, you have to have your anchor firmly anchored. So your family life, your intimate relationships need to be strengthened. Not by never going out. If you strengthen the inner life, your internal personal life, then you are safer going out. So as going out becomes more confusing, your inner life has to become more solid. And as your inner life becomes more solid, you can handle the outside a lot better because you know where you can always go home to. So our family life needs to be secured. It needs to be truly a safe place. I was very, very impressed. I'm very proud, by the way. Everybody is talking about the anti-Semites and that Trump invited them to his house. And I was really, really pleased. Somebody interviewed a few shluchim, Chabad rabbis, from different places in the world, independent of each other. One didn't know what the other was saying. And they all said the right thing. It was like, boy, we were trained well. Every one of them, in different words and in different ways, said, he said that? Tell him to come over to Chabad house. We'll talk, we'll have a coffee, we'll straighten it out. Every one of them said that same thing. Nobody said, ooh, terrible anti-Semitism. Whoa, that, what are we going to do? Kill him, fire him, get him blacklisted and every... One guy actually said, I'm from Russia. And he looks a little Russian. Come, we'll have some vodka. They all said the same thing in their own different words. But the attitude was, the man doesn't know what he's talking about. Let's get together, straighten it out. There wasn't panic. It wasn't hatred. It was, so what else is new? If you don't educate people, then they're stupid. So let them come over to Chabad house. We'll educate them. That is such a healthy attitude. So back to your question. In a time of confusion, in a time of a flood, you have to really have your anchor solid, something to hold on to. But when your anchor is solid, you have a long chain to hold on to that allows you to go out, make yourself available, make yourself helpful, see what you can do to help other people, and you're safe because you've got a solid anchor. You have a solid family to go back to at night. And that gives you success in the going out.
Rabbi Friedman, but then going back to the Torah portion, Dina had the best family. She was Yaakov's daughter. Her 12 brothers were the 12 tribes of Israel, and yet it happened to her. So if it can happen to her, what can happen to just any of us who don't have such a tremendous family and such an anchor?
The danger is always there. And I'm not sure that we need to create a world where there is no danger. I don't know if that's even possible without Mashiach. So yeah, the danger is there. And sometimes the danger actually turns into a horrific experience. Should that stop us? No, it shouldn't. If that stops us, then the bad guys win. So it doesn't stop us. Maybe that's the point of the story. So what was the rest of the story? What happened over there? They went in, they killed every adult male in the town, because they were all obligated to enforce the law against rape, and they didn't. So they were all responsible. They were all guilty of not having law and order in their city. But in the meantime, they were all circumcised, which is a step closer to godliness. But when they came to take Dinah home, she refused to go. She felt like she doesn't belong anymore. So she stayed for a while in Shechem until her brother Shimon offered to marry her, because she was afraid nobody would want to marry her. Now, she had a daughter. Her daughter's name was Osnat. And she felt ashamed of her mother's history. So she left the country and went to Egypt. And she became the maid in Potiphar's house. Eventually, they adopted her. And she became known as Bas Potiphera, the daughter of Potiphar. But she wasn't. She was Dinah's daughter. When Yosef is sold into slavery and is taken down to Egypt, all by divine plan, scheme, all the pieces come together. And where does he end up? In Potiphar's house. So guess what? He marries Osnat. She becomes the mother of two of the 12 tribes. And of course, the wife of Yosef HaTzadik. And they raised these very holy children in Egypt. So it's a disaster, but it turned out to be that's why Mrs. Potiphar wanted to have children from Yosef, because the astrologers said that two of the tribes would be born to her. They were slightly off. It was Osnat, who was her adopted daughter, that was going to be the mother. So, was it all a disaster? Obviously not. Is that the point of the story? Maybe. Somebody made an interesting observation for those who are studying the text of the Torah, especially the first book. Interesting thing. The Torah tells you a story in such a way that your natural sympathy goes towards an individual But in the end, it turns out that that's not the one you should be sympathetic for. Starting with Adam and Chava. Adam is the victim here. His wife nudged him into eating from the tree. So your sympathy is with Adam against Chava. But if you go a little deeper, it turns out that Chava was the hero. Yosef and his brothers. Who are your sympathies with at first? With the brothers. Because Yosef is the spoiled child. He gets all his father's attention. He tells his father bad things about them. So who are you sympathetic to? The brothers. In the end, your sympathy switches. Even Yishmael. Sarah says, send them away. I don't want them in the house. Who are your sympathies with? With poor Yishmael. So the Torah is like teasing you, like, I bet you're sympathetic to, wrong. Think again. Think again. Interesting observation. So whenever you find yourself naturally sympathetic with one side of the other, think again. It's not so simple.
Rabbi Friedman, then right here, I'm going to ask you to bring it to our times. So I think that everyone will agree that we feel a little, or maybe a lot, violated right now with everything that's going on, because it's not fair, it's not right, it's out of control, and it's ridiculous, it's immoral, and I can use a lot more adjectives, but I'll stop right here. So we are being violated, but what good should we be expecting that should come from this violation? Where is all of this leading us? What do we have to look forward to? Can we, maybe based on the wisdom of Torah, can figure it out a little bit?
Yeah, in every lie, there's a certain truth, which is probably a valuable truth, and it's hiding among the lies. But we got to dig it out. That's called think again. So don't be fooled by the outward appearance. Look a little deeper and see what you're going to find. The story of Hanukkah. They went looking a little deeper and they found oil that was not contaminated. It's always going to happen. So number one, all the things that the left radicals say is a reflection of themselves. Perfect description of themselves, but they always say it about somebody else. So the first thing is, when you hear the news, switch the subjects. Every anti-Semitic statement is basically a description of the anti-Semite. And it's so accurate. It's not vague. It's precise. They describe themselves very well. They think they're describing you. And that's true of almost everybody. You know, you listen to a husband complain about his wife, and you find out everything you need to know about him. So that's the first step towards gaining clarity from the confusion. The second thing is the content of the complaint or of the accusation will also tell us what needs to be fixed in this generation or in this time, in this phase of history. So what are we seeing? We're seeing people who have absolutely no conscience, at least outwardly, because there are no longer any consequences. You can get away with everything. And it's not even difficult. You don't have to have brilliant lawyers to get you off. Nobody is even going to accuse you. It's so easy to get away with crime and with corruption and with ugliness. You can say whatever you want, no matter how insulting, embarrassing, degrading, and evil about anybody you want to talk about. And if people get upset, then you say, "Oh, I'm sorry." That's it. You've gotten away with it. Damage is done. You made your point. All you have to say is, "Oh, I'm sorry for destroying your reputation." But you destroyed it. This complete lack of conscience is a result of no fear of consequence. The average kid in the street, the average juvenile delinquent knows, I don't care if the police come, what are they going to do? And take me to the police station, keep me there for a couple of hours, and then I'll go home. At worst, I'll spend the night in jail. At worst, I'll go to jail and then get out. There's no consequence. And when I get out, I'll be even more popular among my friends. So where's the downside? Why not commit crimes and sin and all sorts of stuff? So now we can say, well, the government's got to get tougher. You have to have tougher laws. You have to have tougher punishments. You have to have... It's not going to happen. I'm not sure it would even help.
It's kind of coming from the government, unfortunately.
The permissiveness.
Yeah.
Yeah, in New York.
And a lot of evil.
Yeah. You don't need bail. You get out. It's, if you don't damage more than, what is it in New York? If it's not more than $900 worth of damage, don't even call the police. Something like that. So what then is the answer? The deeper message is punishment and consequence isn't going to work anymore. We need a whole different way of thinking. It served its purpose for 5,000 years, but it's not working anymore, which could be good news. Could be good news. I was in Israel a couple of weeks ago, and I don't know if I told you the story, but there was a woman at one of the programs who said, I want to be more observant. I would love to keep Shabbat and keep kosher, but you see, I'm chiloni. I'm secular. And I like being secular. Do I have to become religious in order to do the mitzvahs? I said, no. Do yourself a favor and stay secular. But do all the mitzvahs you can. She said, great, thank you. So some people got upset. How can you tell somebody to be secular? What kind of rabbi are you?
I was waiting for this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you just stop and think for a minute, she said, I want to do mitzvot, but I'm secular. So I said to her, stay secular and do all the mitzvot you can. And she said, great. Imagine that she starts keeping all the mitzvot, but she's still secular. Well, what does secular mean? When she says she's secular and wants to stay secular, what does she mean? What's secular? She wants to do the mitzvot. She wants to become a practicing, involved Jew, but she wants to be secular. What is she thinking? What she's thinking is, I want to keep the mitzvot. I don't want to be told. I don't want to be pressured. I don't want to be forced. Can I just do it because I want to? Of course, that's the best way. So in her mind, secular means no pressure. Religious means community pressure. She doesn't want community pressure. So, neither do I. So people get bent out of shape. Oh, secular. She said secular. That's evil. That's atheism. No, it's not. It's just get off my back. Let me just be a Jew, and I'll be a Jew. What are you standing on my head for? So you see, there's good news. The fact that we no longer respond to threats, we no longer respond to authority, community pressure, none of it, it's gone. Okay, now, how is a Jew going to behave? Like a Jew. And enjoy it. And it's true for the rest of the world also. We can't be moral because the society demands it. And we can't be moral because religion demands it. And we can't be moral because the punishment is too scary and I can't afford it. That's not moral. Moral has to be a person convinced of the rightness of moral behavior. If you're not convinced that it's right, then even if I can force you, what's the point? It'll work as long as you're not triggered. As soon as you're triggered, the whole thing falls apart. You can't have artificial morality. That's good news.
We would say it's called adulthood, maturity, where we can make the right decisions without pressures from anywhere. That is fantastic news. However, are we there yet as a society? Or is it just a few of us here and there?
It's the transition generation. It's a little risky. You're letting go of the familiar. As shallow as it was, it worked to some degree. Now you're not going to have even that. Pretty scary. On the other hand, if you look around, you'll see it's working quite well. People who don't belong to a synagogue, they don't belong to a church, they don't belong to a religious group, they have no religious influence in their life, and they're deciding to keep mitzvot. Jews and non-Jews. Where is this coming from? Is it only a passing fad? Or is it real? I think it's real. But you can't throw away what you have until you have something new. Can't be left with nothing. So it's a slow transition, confusing transition, maybe even scary. But I think the change will happen and we will be a much better world as a result. So we can sit around and groan and complain about the lack of discipline, the lack of authority, and so on, which is sad, but it's not the end of the road. This is going to lead to a more personal, internal based. Now we're talking about the Parsha. We read about Avraham, we read about Yitzchak, now we're reading about Yaakov. The difference between them can be seen in the well. The stories with the well. Avraham dug wells, Yitzchak dug wells, and Yaakov hung around the well. That's where he met his wife. What's with the wells? So here's the story. Avraham enlightened the people of his generation with life-giving messages. There's only one God. You don't need idols. The idols don't work. You can talk to God directly. You don't need intermediaries. You don't need little gods. Talk to God. Only one. Because people already believed in God. Avraham didn't introduce God. Avraham introduced monotheism. The idea that there's only one God. That was news to most people. In other words, Avraham provided water to people who were in a desert, spiritually. Yitzchak also did. He inspired the people around him with life-giving waters of godliness, Torah. Their difference was this. Avraham brought water from where there was water to where there wasn't. So he didn't actually dig wells, he dug water channels. Because he was introducing godliness like an imported good. The world didn't know about God's oneness, and Avraham introduced it. Where did he get it from? From heaven. So he imported something godly to a place where there was nothing godly. Like digging a channel to bring water from the river to the nearby desert. It's very easy for those channels to get blocked, to get closed up. You got to come back and redig it. Yitzchak took a different approach. Yitzchak said, bringing water from a distance is not good enough. You have to find the water in this location itself, which means if you dig deep enough, you will find the water that belongs to this place. What does that mean spiritually? Don't find your inspiration outside of yourself from some very smart, charismatic preacher or documents or even angels. Dig deep within yourself and you'll find the truth right there in you. So bring up the water that is native to who you are. Like Yitzchak did, He dug up the water that was native to the place that had been a desert. That kind of a well lasts much longer. So we have Avraham who brings water, and you have Yitzchak who digs up the water. Okay, now what does Yaakov do? He's the third player. What does he do? From outside or from inside? Those are the only choices, no? Yaakov's approach was, what's the difference whether it's inside or outside? Is it true? And if it's true, then it doesn't come from outside and it doesn't come from inside. It comes from itself. True is true. An appreciation for truth itself. So I don't have to be impressed by heavenly events, and I don't have to be a genius to discover it in myself. It's true. What are you going to do? Truth is truth. Where did I find it? It's true. That's Yaakov. We are called the children of Yaakov, children of Israel, not the children of Avraham or the children of Yitzchak. Although they are our forefathers, our patriarchs, but when it comes to identifying the people, God refers to them as the children of Israel, which is Yaakov. So, where do we look for our inspiration? Where do we look for our purpose in life, our marching orders? You look at the truth. If you hear the truth from outside, that's okay. You find the truth inside, that's okay. You find the truth without looking at all, great. Emes is emes. That's how we have to function today. We can't wait until we have matured, as you say, maturity, and we can't rely on some other external forces to inspire us. We just have to discover the truth. And that's why all the news is fake. We never noticed it before. We never called it that before. Somehow we knew more or less that you can't trust what you hear on television. We didn't know how true that was. But it's only very recently that we have that phrase or that notion of fake news. So fake is the opposite of true. So now the question is not where are you getting your information? Doesn't matter. Is it true? Because there's so much false. So again, the false actually is leading us to the truth. So it's not which opinion do you like, which group do you belong to, who are you favoring, who are you supporting, who are you voting for? No. The question is, what's the truth? And why am I looking for the truth? Because the lies are so obvious. So that the falsehood is saying, you better find the truth because all this is fake. So the fake news turns truth into a conversation. We never had that conversation before.
Amazing, Rabbi Friedman. We found the goodness in fake news. It's leading us to the truth.
Right. So instead of saying, are you right or left, which has been the conversation for 100 years, are you on the right or are you on the left? Now the question is, who cares? Where's the truth? That's a good development. So where do you look for truth?
Best question ever.
Mm-hmm. It is so interesting that the entire world, whoever is looking for truth, are looking to Judaism, to the Jews. Anyone who wants to know the truth knows you got to ask Jews, the Jewish Bible. It's beautiful. It's beautiful what's going on. We are finally becoming a light to the nations, not because we want to be, because the nations want us to be. Is that not good news?
That's amazing news. That is amazing news.
For everybody.
Hopefully there are people out there that are realizing it, because we're not going on that path altogether. We're kind of like getting together, but there is still a lot of loose ends that need to be kind of cleaned up a little bit. And hopefully that is happening as we speak, and we'll see the end result very, very soon, which is, of course, Mashiach.
So the Rebbe said, one more mitzvah, one good deed, one positive thought can tilt the scales and make the world perfect. If you add to that one more consideration, it is perfectly kosher for a person to say, I know that it's going to take one more mitzvah, one more good deed, one more good thought. I really hope that it's my mitzvah, my good thought, my good deed. I would love it if I could be the one to do that final mitzvah. It's not arrogant, it's not selfish, it's not crude. It's perfectly legitimate to say, it takes only one more mitzvah, I hope it's mine. Everybody should think that.
It's amazing. So the enthusiasm should be not how much money we're going to make this year, but is my mitzvah going to be the last mitzvah that's going to tip the scale? I like that strategy. Very, very nice, Rabbi Friedman. Thank you so much. Unfortunately, this time goes by so fast, but with such value, with such inspiration, with so much light, which is absolutely priceless, and just something that gives us gas for the entire week to come. So thank you so much for the time you allocate for us and for the wisdom that you bring to the people all over the world. And unfortunately, I'm going to be counting days till next Tuesday. So thank you so much.
Thank you for the opportunity.